Yes, I'm aware more than I'm proud to admit of all the other stuff going on. But right now, I'm only responding to this right here.
You probably saw the news over the past couple weeks. There's been about 2 or 3 incidents of black women going to the hospital to deliver their child and being turned away from the hospital and delivering the child in their automobile. Right? So, as much as we can say racism, and it is, right? But here's a bigger question. If black women spend tens of billions of dollars on weave, perm, hair products, and other beauty products, why haven't black women and black men, because it's not just on our sisters alone, why haven't we built our own birthing center?
So, again, I already don't like the framing, and I'm sure it's not meant to be this way, but the way I hear it, it's again another blame the black community, blame black women for them now having to survive the settler colonial capitalist white supremacist behavior of some of these doctors and nurses, et cetera. Two of whom I've seen have already been fired, if for whatever to whatever extent that means anything. But again, we're being encouraged to white supremacist, settler colonial, capitalist narratives and so-called solutions to what are very political problems. So this is again where the mythology really troubles me, and I think the analyses and then the movements and the efforts of too many in black and other communities that, but particularly black communities where this myth is particularly weaponized and targeted. The goal is always and ever to get black people out of radical political spaces. Never mind, of course, there are black birthing centers, not necessarily many, and there are many black. And I don't know about. Let me correct many. There are black women in serving as doulas and midwives, and so there are these efforts happening. So I don't know to what extent this is ever raised in the broader discussion, but in terms of this clip sent me, it doesn't come up, and this is part of the major problem with this kind of an analysis. There are people trying to do things. There are limitations on what can be done given the lack of resources available to these black women and others attempting to offer up these alternatives. And then, of course, it is a political public policy issue that leads to a lack of healthcare overall, and then the behavior of some in the healthcare industry.
If your queen need to have a baby, she can go to the birthing center. Or why haven't we built our own hospital? You understand?
Right.
No. So we crying racism, but we are $2 trillion people, and we don't control a single independent hospital.
Right.
How much of this is on the government and white society? And how much of this is on black people not doing what we need to do
for
with our
accountability?
money? Absolutely.
And again, and then this is paraded as some sort of applause line with the and then someone added this emotional music underneath it as a bed. When again, the reality is the $2 trillion people is not real. So again, what is your data? What is your resource? And then show me how it's not either the Selig Center, Nielsen, or the McKinsey and Company more recently promoting this mythology. And then tell me where in their reporting are those numbers meant to be reflective of anything actual or real, because they're not. So not only are we not a $2 trillion people, but to the point that he's raising about we don't control this and that, we don't control the $2 trillion either. And then to what extent would that solve this and all the other problems facing the black community? So, and again, once you set up this black hospital, who again, to the two black supply chain extended critique of all of this, who's going to supply you with the technology? Remember, one of the first, what led me into so much of the conflict that I've had with my own institution, and please see channel membership or Patreon for those details. A lot of it started when new management showed up and delivered upon us his mandate. And his mandate came in the form of an article that had been published somewhat recently in the mid 2010s about what they were calling the teaching hospital model. And though we were in a school of communication, and I think we were still even a department of communication, not even a school yet, but endeavoring to become a school. The point was, just as the article said of the teaching hospital model, if you want technological and other investment resources, your hospital would have to conform its teaching to the interests of the owners of those products, to the owners of those pharmaceuticals, to the owners of that private equity. And that model was being brought into the university. The point being here, related again to Two Black's supply chain model extended analysis of all of this, is that even if you have this Black-owned hospital, these Black-owned birthing centers, who is going to supply all of the technology, all of the medication, all of the bedding, all of the pillows, all of the sheets, all of the trays and medical tools and utensils and whatever? So even as Umar may be at somewhat of a nadir of his popularity and his career, the myth he's promoting is as strong as ever and is doing all it has ever been meant to do, which is to move discussion, analysis, framing, interpretation, and then ultimately organized effort away from radical politics and keeping us all limited around these very narrow settler colonial capitalist white supremacist narratives around capitalism, free market fundamentalism, black capitalism, buying and spending power.
But to illustrate the point, say I need shrimp, tomatoes, avocados for a dish, whether I go to a Black-owned grocery store or a WASP-owned Walmart. That was a pun at this whole WASP silliness that she said. These commodities are not grown in the store's back lots. To the point we just made, Walmart is not going to grow everything at the retail location. That's not how this works. Walmart's not going to produce everything behind Walmart. It's going to have to come from somewhere else, right? Like, that's just logic. So when I looked it up, those specific products actually are shipped from India and Mexico. That's more than the majority of shrimp, tomatoes, and avocados are made. In terms of avocados, that's Mexico, and I think shrimp was primarily India, and then tomatoes was Mexico, right?
So like even, and I think I'm stealing this
on that. If you click on that, it'll give you. It's called visual capitalism. They actually show you. It actually might be helpful.
This one,
yeah, it'll show you like how much money comes from, or how much money these products make. There's a visual graph there that gives people. See, tomatoes, 2.8 billion. 2.58 billion. Avocados, Mexico. Yeah.
Peppers. So even Bubba Gump would have been run out of business because they'd have been getting the shrimp cheaper from India. I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.